Hello, George. How are you doing today?
Really good. Thanks. It's good to be here.
Yeah, we're really happy to have you in our podcast today. Viewers, we have a very important person in our midst today. He's no other person than George Randle. He's a veteran. I salute you, sir. I really have respect for our men and women in uniform. So I salute you, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers with the time will salute you for what you've done to make our life easier.
Oh,
So
thank you.
today, yeah, so today we're going to talk with George. George, he's an executive human resource leader, and he's been in recruiting for more than global recruiting for more than 15 years. And again, he's done. Oh yeah, it's a long time, and of course, it comes with the experience, perspective, and insight we're going to enjoy today from you. So today, George, we're gonna have this conversation with you about how you built the company you have today, what led you to into recruitment, and what are the challenges you faced. What are the things you want to also double down on? We're talking about real experiences. We're not talking about LinkedIn polished page. We're talking a real experience because again, our audience are CEOs like you, and again, the growing up entrepreneurs so that we know that it's every business that you have out there went through their own challenges and to build whatever they have. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So, and again, yeah, today the podcast is going to go into three parts. First of all, we look at your background and how it, how it fits into the bigger picture of your business or of your company. Then again, we also discuss your current challenge, the vision, and where your company to be in the next 1 year. And we wrap up if it make any sense, if there's anything to, you know,
Yeah.
take it from there. Does that sound good?
Sounds great. Let's
Oh,
go.
all right, Judge. Thank you very much. So again, I want to make it clear it's not an interview, it's a conversation. So feel free to take it wherever you want to. And if there's any question, yeah, take it where usually it's slated for 35, between 30 and 45 minutes. But if you want to go on more than that, that's fine. But again, we're not gonna waste your time. So, Judge, can you share a bit about your role and how you fit into a bigger picture of your business?
Well, there's actually two businesses.
Oh, okay, awesome.
And the first one is I'm a managing partner of an executive search firm.
Yeah.
The funny thing is that I share my last name. It's just spelled differently.
Okay.
So there are two gentlemen that brought me in. I just thought it was a great omen that I had the same last name, even though it was spelled differently. So a lot of people think it's my firm.
Okay.
But the other one is a company called M6 Advisory, which is my LLC that I use for executive coaching. I use for the book that I wrote that's behind me, the book that I'm writing right now, and a lot of executive coaching. So, I have kind of I don't know, the best of all worlds is that I get to work with a great firm. There's a lot of coaching that I do for my own business, and then there's the writing and public speaking to go along with the books.
That's very great. So, when you mentioned the book, so let me ask you a question. I'm sure you've got it when I emailed you, you got the about the books.
Yeah.
So, drawing from your unique journey from military leadership to Fortune 100 HR executive and your insight from the war talent, what are the most critical yet often overlooked strategy for identifying, building, and recognizing elite teams that truly drive business potentials in today's rapid evolving talent landscape?
Well, so first of all, the journey I was just the oldest of four in a middle class family, and to if I wanted to go to college, then I had to pay my way through school. So I joined the Army Reserves,
Mhm.
got the leadership bug, and decided to become commissioned as an officer, where I got to travel around the world, Europe, specifically Berlin. I was in Africa for a while, back to the States, into Central America, and all over. And I was really, really fortunate that I hit all of the leadership positions I was supposed to hit. The challenge is that I hit them pretty early. And so I knew that the next round of assignments that the Army was going to give me were not buddy boot assignments. They were going to be behind a desk. So I jumped to the corporate world and I kind of fell backwards into HR and recruiting. And I think it was probably 6 months in. I'm an individual contributor, a consulting firm doing HR recruiting work. And they said, well, you have some leadership experience. I said, well, just a little bit. So the next thing you know, I'm in charge of a team that's leading an entire business unit, the HR and the recruiting functions. And I did that for about 6, 7 years, built the first veterans recruiting program for a consulting firm. Went on to another consulting firm to head up about half the US in recruiting. And then I got my big break and I moved to Hewlett Packard. And I started out just handling the US and Canada. And in no time flat, I ended up having the entire globe. So I don't know, averaging about 19,000 hires a year, a little bit more. Um, Moved on from there to get into a hedge fund. Was the head of global recruiting there. Changed the way that they look at recruiting at the three places around the world, especially technical recruiting. And then went to a cyber firm back here in my hometown of Austin. Um, and it's just a weird circumstance. A private equity firm came in 3 years after I'd rebuilt this place from scratch, and we were doing great things. I'm writing the book with my co-author, a member of SEAL Team 6, something I never thought I would do. And it was kind of at that point where I was offered the chance. If I look, I knew if I stuck around, I was going to be a casualty of their, slash and burn mentality of this particular private equity firm. They didn't have a lot of interest in leadership. It really was just about the almighty dollar with these people. And so I jumped out and took a nice package and did consulting work and speaking work for a while before I joined the executive search firm. But got to travel and speak on the book, which has been wonderful. Do a lot of consulting on it, and now I'm on to my second book.
Awesome. That's very great, George. So, how does a typical day look like for you?
Sure, there's a typical day in recruiting. I would love to say that there is, and I would love to say I have a routine.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, it really depends upon the clients. It really depends upon what's going on that day. I know right now that usually it starts out very early in the morning, about 5:30 or 6 a.m., checking if there were any emails or anything that went on because the nature of my business, when you're working with executives, many times you can't get in touch with them until, after work hours or before work hours, but you can always work with your clients during the day. So in some ways, your day might have very little in it, and then other days it just has tons in it. And so, other than that, I spend my time right now editing the chapters of this book, working on the cover art, building a new website, and lining up speeches. And
Awesome.
so, the only typical thing that I could say would be I try to make it to the gym 4 days a week, and I play soccer, competitive soccer on Sundays.
I like that. Yeah, that's very great. So, what major shift are you seeing in your industry right now?
Well, right now, I think it's the thing that everybody sees is how is AI impacting what we do in the talent function? And I don't think there's any real definitive answer on good or bad. I think there's a lot of efficiencies gained on the company side with the use of artificial intelligence, being able to sort through and look at resumes and kind of shorten the process, especially when it's a candidate rich job market. That's a really helpful tool. That said, on the other side of the equation, be that executives, mid level, or entry level hires, in the blink of an eye, a candidate can turn out a resume that makes them look fabulous for the role. And so when you have that, all of your resumes and your experience gets closer and closer and closer together. So there's a lot of people that think AI is really kind of phasing out the human element of recruiting. And I'm the contrarian. I think we're going to start inserting a lot more of the human side into it because it's really only the human that's going to be able to tell the difference between somebody with a lot of talent to do the job or somebody with that might just barely survive.
Yeah, I agree with you perfectly, completely. So again, I think you've somehow answered the question, but let me ask you, how has AI impacted your business and the strategy, in your company today?
Well, on the business company side, the biggest thing, because I'm in recruiting, working with people, it really helps with the research. With your clients, you want to be a student of the business. You want to be able to understand as much about them and their competitors and the particular industry that you're going to go recruiting in. And so I think it's helped immensely save an enormous amount of time and give you a lot of information to become more educated in your client's business. So in that regard, it's been super, super helpful. That said, you have to validate your information because not everything that comes out of AI, it, it's not as bad as social media where you have to check everything.
Yeah.
But you still have to be very careful and choosy about your prompts and what you're looking for when you do business research.
Yeah. That's perfect. So what's working well for you right now and what has been frustrating?
Uh, well, there's nothing frustrating necessarily on my end, but I would say when you work with clients, and it's part of the second book that I'm working on, when you're trying to select people for very, very critical roles, it's so important that you understand what success is. It's so important that you understand and define what your goals are and what this person looks like before you go out to the market and to have a defined process. And, it hasn't changed over all of my years in recruiting. A lot of people think they do recruiting well and they think they have a good process, but really they don't. And so when you get frustrations, there's usually two of them in my business. One is clients aren't well organized. They're not very clear on who should speak with the candidates. And then with the candidates, I have seen a little bit of drop off in professionalism as of late, not at the executive level, but below that. So those are two things I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, can you share more a little bit about what you said about about the candidate? You say drop off of what? What do you mean by that?
Um, First of all, I grew up, if somebody was interested in me as a candidate, some employer, I was always taught to be courteous and prompt in my reply and kind and really grateful. I mean, if a company's interested in you, regardless of what you think, it's quite a compliment.
Yeah.
And you should respond via email, via phone call, not text, in a professional manner. If you're scheduled for interviews or you're asked for information, and really my generation, it was automatic that you provided everything as quickly as you could because somebody was trying to do or present you with an opportunity that would allow you to better yourself. With the newer generations coming on, they don't act as hungry, nor are they as professional in the job search. And they're chasing a lot of things. A lot of them are just simply chasing money or chasing a fun, great environment. And I've watched candidates no show for interviews or candidates that you've talked to two or three times just suddenly disappear. I've had candidates who've accepted an offer and 3 days later declined that offer. So I think the level of professionalism, it's not that any level is unprofessional on the whole. It's just you're seeing a rise in the lack of professionalism when it comes to the job search and job market.
Makes sense. So how do you currently measure success in your business?
How do I measure success?
Yeah.
Well, really, I'm measuring it by my client success. And
Okay.
that is, did I get them the best leader possible? And is that leader making the impact
Okay.
that the company wanted them to make?
Okay.
So that's for me. I don't know. It's somewhat like marriage when they say "happy wife, happy life." If your clients are happy and pleased, that you're responsive, you're thorough, you understand their business, you understand their problems, and you're presenting them with really top talent. That's really success in what I do.
That's well said. So, which metrics are you focused on improving now in making sure you can continue to provide your company what they want or ensure your success?
Well, for me, I don't know that there's a specific metric, but usually speed and quality
Okay.
are most important to my clients. And so I want to measure to the degree that I can. But speed is a very fungible term, meaning most of the people in my profession are going to work on a Monday through Friday pace. I work on a very high tempo pace to make sure that my clients, because they have a need for that leadership, and I want to work very, very quickly. But working very quickly, if I get a very, very difficult role, a difficult location, or a set of circumstances, somebody's got to relocate across the United States, that talent pool gets smaller and smaller. So while something might take me, I've hired a very, very difficult role in 36 days, an executive. And on the other hand, I've had one that's not near as difficult stretch on for 4 months. And I always want to shorten that, but it's really, if I were to say one, it would be time on target. And that is getting qualified, great top talent that are interested in my client's company as quickly as I possibly can so they can start their decision making process.
So makes a lot of sense. So, where do you want your company to be in the next 12 months?
Well, I hope the book is a a bestseller. That would be first and foremost. And then number two, that the clients that I'm working with continue to do business with me because they're very pleased with the quality of the candidates and the candidates are impacting those companies. So really, I don't look in necessarily time frames, but within the next year, I hope the second book is a bestseller. That would be a really nice feather in the cap because it will bring more business and I'll be able to do a lot more public speaking. And I really enjoy that.
Awesome. And you talk about, are your clients, are they in any specific industry or across the board?
I would say across the board, but my focus is really on senior leadership. That's really, and that might be technical, that might be human resources, it could be financial services, it could be manufacturing of any sort. But it really is about leadership and getting the right leaders.
Are there any specific KPIs you're tracking? You have to track that. Tracking, yeah.
I don't. I keep track of really from the moment that I was engaged with a client
Mhm.
to when they're able to present that candidate an offer. That's important to me because first of all, I know that I've provided them a quality candidate. But the longer that a position goes unfilled or they don't have the right talent, there's a business impact.
Yeah.
And I want to help them be successful. So that's the one I'm measuring. From the moment that they call me and say, "Hey George, will you take over this search?" to when they're going, "Okay, I want to make this candidate an offer." That's the one critical measurement for me.
Can you share a bit of any challenge service you have for a client, maybe in providing service, any, and how you're able to get through it and what, the client get at the end of the day? Any specific experience?
The challenges. The thing about this business is that it's never boring. There's always something that comes up. I think if there was something that's difficult in my particular function, and that is senior leader at executive recruiting, it's that the executives I'm trying to reach are very, very busy. And so many times it's very hard to get a hold of them when I might have this just great opportunity for them to dig into. And so reaching those candidates and saying, "Hey, look, you might want to take a look at this." That's really the hardest part, other than the business development of bringing in new clients.
Do you do you have anything like a database of these executives that the senior positions that at hand that maybe you can always dig into if there's any need arise?
We do. Our firm keeps a database of executives that we've spoken with, executives we've placed, considered. We do have that to tap into, and as robust as it is,
Yeah.
it depends upon what the company is asking you for. There's so many times where, oh, great, I go to the database and I pull up 5 or 6 great profiles. And then there's other times where I go and I get zero.
Yeah.
So I have to go out and do my research as to who the best are in that position.
Yeah, in those positions, we're looking at what we normally call the latent candidates. They are there, they're not showing interest, but you can as well, okay, I mean, let's keep going. So,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So if you had a magic wand to fix just one thing in your company that is holding you down or holding you back or slowing you down, what would that one thing be?
Well, it's always business development. Building relationships takes time. Building trust takes time. And when you're dealing with bigger firms, and even medium-sized firms, they're usually working with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
a retained search firm. So breaking into that and showing that you might be the better partner for them,
Mm-hmm.
that takes a lot of time. And so if I could just simply wave a magic wand, I'd wave away all that time. And on my first phone call that I've established trust, I have a great relationship and they're ready to work with me. It's just not how life works. But if I were gonna rub a lantern and have a genie give me wishes or wave a magic wand, that would be it.
Awesome. Okay. But do you have any plans in place of attracting these top, let's say, companies to kind of present yourself to them, your services? I mean.
Really, mine come because I've been in the industry for so long. Mine come from so many connections. Now, I do hope that, well, I do get some calls based on, this book that I've done here. And then the second book that'll be about executive hiring, I think that will bring a lot more awareness
Mhm.
to our company and to me specifically, so that when people do need to find a great leader, they'll know or consider calling me.
Okay. So, talking about your specific area or the senior leaders, do you have any how would I put it now? Do you have any leads for companies that are likely going to look for this? I mean, that are looking for senior leaders.
You don't know until you ask.
Yeah.
So then, if somebody's been released or you see somebody transition, you're way behind.
Hmm.
So most of the senior leadership positions I deal with, they're in complete confidence until they select a firm to go search for them. So, lead generation is a little bit difficult. Your
Uh,
lead generation in my world is about building relationships and relationships that end up demonstrating that you could be a great partner and find the right talent for what they need to accomplish their goals.
yeah. Okay. I understand. The confidentiality of your the
Yeah,
level you're dealing with. Sometimes it's not what is out there. It's what.
yeah. In my older days when I ran recruiting organizations, there were a number of tools, that helped us with sourcing, that helped us find available talent. Um, But in the retained space, it's about picking up the phone and building a relationship.
Yeah. So now that more or less you're like you say in your senior position in retain space, is there any specific AI tool you're using for that or
Well, the first thing I was introduced to was ChatGPT, but there's Claude, there's any number of tools out there that I can tap into and subscribe to. It just depends on what I want to use them for and what kind of data research, or if I'm using something to help me do some research and collect data from my next book. There's a number of great tools that I use, but not one that I am qualified to recommend.
Right, George. Thank you for coming to the podcast. Is there any other thing you want to add to that I haven't asked you? Any other information you want to give?
No, I'll just give you the information when the new book comes out, and hopefully we can add some awareness that it's out there and it might be something beneficial for others to read.
Okay, so you mean you want me to we'll talk again when the book comes out? Is that what you mean?
Yes,
Okay.
when it comes out, because I can't release the title
No, no,
quite yet.
absolutely. No. I understand. That would be great. At least. So I have another meeting with you when the books come out, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
we'll do
great.
that.
Thank
Let's
you
do
very
that.
much. Yeah, let's do that. Thank you very much for coming to our podcast. And viewers, I know the insight he has shared today is a lot, in fact, for me to unpack, and I'm very grateful that you honored our invitation. Thank you, George, and have a
Thanks.
great day.
Thanks for having me on. Have a great day.
And you too. Bye bye.